The third social trend that we're going to look at is the rise of social media, which you guys are undoubtedly light years ahead of somebody like myself. Um, Again, when we look at how recent the computer revolution is, social media in all its forms has been around really for less than 15 years, and yet it's an essential part of your everyday life. So let's look. Um, this graph is a little hard to see, but you can enlarge it. If we go back to Facebook in 2006, that is 14 years ago. So you guys were 3 years old when Facebook was created, and yet it has become an essential part of everyday life, certainly for older people like myself. Your generation tends to use Snapchat or Instagram, and I'm always amazed at how people document their life. Pictures of their food, pictures of their cats, pictures of themselves going in and out of the room. It is a very, very natural part for your generation. And a lot of positives. I enjoy seeing and learning what friends and family are doing. It connects us in a way that we couldn't have imagined years before. But obviously, there are downsides too. If you look at a lot of these innovations back in the 90s, they don't even exist anymore. People used to blog back in the late 90s. That's rarely done anymore. Spotify was developed in 2006. You guys are used to your playlists. Things like Bing has disappeared. The Google Suite that we're very familiar with in school and Google Classroom and all those things that we use are only 8 or 9 years old. Even Wikipedia, which you depend on when you're not supposed to, is less than 20 years old. I can remember in the early 2000s when YouTube was first created, and we asked the technology guy in school if we could have access to it for our lessons, and he blocked it. And we had to appeal to the superintendent as history teachers to say, look at all these historical resources, these primary sources that you guys are all used to seeing in my PowerPoints that really bring history alive. And we finally were able to get YouTube access. Now, people have their own YouTube channels and create their own materials for publishing or for viewing, I suppose I should say. As recently as 2010, we saw Yelp, which many people, myself included, rely on to get advice about where to go for a restaurant, or places like TripAdvisor, where you can write about your experience on a vacation place. Unbelievable. And I wouldn't dream of doing something that I spend a lot of money on without looking into seeing others' opinions. So here we are again. Twitter, which is of course widely used by the president, is very young too, 2006. There's a big controversy today about whether or not these platforms should be monitored for truthfulness. Should anybody be allowed to say anything, even if it's damaging? For example, the president said some things that many people considered fanning the flames of the violence that we've seen this week. And he made a statement about mail-in voting that Twitter flagged and said was not true. And there's a little war going on between him and Twitter. But if you look at this, the smartphone came out in 2007, and the fact that we have a camera with us at all times has totally changed the way we document our life. As we know, there's a lot of downsides to this. You feel like you have to look good all the time. And, what is that expression? FOMO. If everybody's having such a great time and you're not, there must be something wrong with you. If every girl looks like a model and you don't, there must be something wrong with you. So, has social media connected and disconnected our world? For all the positives, there are many negatives. And I think one of the things that this quarantine, this sheltering at home has taught us is maybe sometimes the joy in the little things, or the joy in sitting around the family room and watching a movie together rather than being stuck on our own individual screens. the ability to hide behind a screen, the incivility that people show to each other on social media because they can, the way that people insult each other because they can. Many of these things that are said online would never be said to a person's face. So again, positives and negatives, but I think it's here to stay. It's a matter of how we use it and how, if at all, it'll be regulated.